Good afternoon, everybody. It is Saturday, August 16th, and today we're looking at some charts here, doing some quick analysis across multiple time frames for some of the tickers I've really been paying attention to the last few days, and we'll kind of cover what I think is relevant and interesting right now. High time frame, the picture for Bitcoin still remains that we are in a macro uptrend, right? We broke the 1272 fib, which gives us a natural target towards the 1618, which is currently sitting around 170K. And in the meantime, we also have a big fuck off uptrend that we are still in and have not broken. This is a very rudimentary analysis, but it's really all you need to basically say, hey, we're in an uptrend. Until we see major changes in that, I would not be betting against it. When we play this a bit more low time frame, looking at the daily here, obviously we had a bit of a nasty pullback coming out of a bit of a liquidity sweep here in the past few days. We have a bit of minor support here that I can see. Probably hit some local targets. Yeah, 1618-ish. So we do seem to be finding some support here at a minor level. It is generally not the sexiest price action, obviously, but it is within a bull market. There's a lot of weird price action that just doesn't look that great, but ends up being fine anyway. It's not something I would bet on, but this is also not anything that is going to stop me from holding my spot positions. So for right now, I have a little bit of Bitcoin. I'm just not going to touch it. I think we're generally going to be fine. If we come deeper, I'll be looking to, on this dip, I'll be looking to add to that spot bag, as I do still suspect that we will trade this higher. Looking very low time frame. Maybe it's trying to put in a bit of a bottoming action here. We had some sweepage that just continued sweeping its own lows. So I would not be surprised to see this put in a bit of a bounce. But yeah, it's not something I would actively bet on. We do have I guess a bit of hopium from this little trend line here. Yeah, maybe if we drop below there, below, call it 116.8, we see a bit of acceleration back down to the low 110s, call it 114 down to 112-ish. Maybe as low as 110. And that's where we would then look to add back again. But like I said, I'm not actively in aggressive longs. I have a bit of spot, and I'll probably keep it that way. On the ETH side, we just broke on the weekly here above our macro resistance at 4,000 to 4,100, 4,100, whatever you fucking want to call it. It's now wicked right before the all-time high liquidity. That's honestly a very bullish sign, as it's very unlikely for us to break the relevant macro resistance, which is not all-time high, right? We can see we have many touches from this consolidation candle. This has been the relevant resistance level. To break that on a weekly time frame, to not take liquidity, and then to just full reverse from there seems highly unlikely to me. So by the same token, as with Bitcoin, I still suspect we will continue on higher here for ETH. At the very least, all-time high. I would suspect that we'll hit up around 5,400 as well for that 1272 target from the breakout here. And maybe if we do get a nice send above all-time high, we hold that as support. We could even talk about playing this back up to 7,700, 8,000-ish, where I would likely look to get out and not be involved with ETH anymore. This is likely later on in the year. If we do get there, I would suspect that alts will be pumping pretty hard, and we'll be nearing kind of the end of this cycle if we're getting to those prices on ETH. In the shorter term, obviously having a bit of a nice pullback right now. Today seems to be a bit of a slowdown day, which is nice to see. I've actually added some here around 4,400. So that's starting off my ETH position again. We TP'd this before in the higher regions. And we have some support still below us here at 4,300. So I'm leaving some room to add down to it. We're still in a local downtrend on the low time frames. But I do suspect that ETH will reverse from this pullback and continue with its uptrend into the all-time highs, into 1272 maybe. And if we get a nice pump all the way up to that 1272 slash macro like lower time frame 1618, right? It's around 8,000. We see on ETH BTC as well, had a beautiful rally for the past few months here, but usually, you know, we might say, oh, let's start looking for pullbacks in this. So that's just ETH's performance against Bitcoin. The macro resistance really starts coming in. We have a bit of resistance at 43. We have lots of very minor levels all over the place. I would say the real relevant place is coming around, you know, call it 5 cents and 6 cents. This is not something I'm going to actively trade on. It's just diddling in the middle. None of these levels are particularly relevant, so this is not really something we can gather too much information from in the short term. So, to recap, I am not doing anything crazy with Bitcoin, but I am starting to add back into my ETH position here. And then two of the other things I'm looking at, obviously I just spoke about PENGU in the chats, but effectively we are coming into support here on a macro pullback. We left liquidity open at the highs repeatedly, so that makes this a great price target. I do suspect we will take out that all-time high level. We can get rid of that. Now we're sweeping lows at liquidity, and this is kind of the perfect position to put in a bit of a bounce here. Maybe that just gets to somewhere around that 618 retracement on that. I call it 38 cents. If we pull a fib on this, it'll probably be around the 618 anyway. Maybe on the upper end. Yeah, there you go. 618 is 37. Or end of the golden pocket is around that 3.8 target we're talking about. I'd say that's kind of target one. Neckline around 441 is kind of where we'd be looking at for target two. And then we could run this to all-time high for kind of our main longer term target. And you know, if you clear that all-time high, we can talk about this going way fucking higher, obviously, but for the time being, this looks like a bullish retracement. Liquidity at the highs, sweeping liquidity at the lows. I took a little long here, so I am actually net long position on this once again. And I'll be looking for this to put in a nice bounce in the coming days and weeks. Yeah. And the last ticker I want to talk about here is going to be ENA. This is something we took in a little buy on the other day. This is still actively downtrending, which is why it's a tiny buy. But I'll be basically looking to add back into this on the lower end here. Unfortunately, I did manage to miss the dips down all the way to 68 cents. But as we push back into these lows, that's where I'm kind of looking to add back and then add proper size once we start seeing this kind of reversing on the lower time frames. But for the time being, this is coming down. But in the grand scheme of things, I do suspect we'll get another spike up to take out our highs here and push into kind of mid-90s, maybe even. But yeah, definitely coming into some resistance, but I would suspect that even the dip here is going to run us back to the highs. But most of this move is obviously played out from our original buys back in 36, so we hit our main target, so we're just playing with profits now. Don't go crazy on this shit, right? It's run pretty far. We're just looking to catch a lost hurrah, if you will. So yeah, those are the main things I'm looking at right now. Thoughts on a few tickers. I hope that helps. See ya.